Our second top practitioner is Group Director for Content Strategy for Pace Communications. Content marketing is one of the powerful new disciplines emerging from the digital transformation of media, and Heather Wright is one of the leaders. Witness the fact that her firm, Pace, was recently named Content Marketer of the Year by the Content Marketing Institute. Heather graduated with a degree in magazine journalism from Syracuse University. She started her career writing and editing for some of the finest publications in the nation: Entertainment Weekly, Essence, Black Enterprise, Glamour, Vibe, Washington Post, Martha Stewart, Ways, and Business Week. From those exceptional journalism credentials, she made the transition to content marketing, where she today engages major national brands to consumers with consistency and authenticity. Please welcome Heather Wright.
So thank you for having me. That was fantastic. I'm excited to be a part of this conversation about communicating with audiences on behalf of great brands. And I'm going to talk to you guys about content. Is that a weird feedback? Slowly. So I'm going to talk to you guys about content and our place in this whole sort of advertising, PR, content marketing thing. Content marketing is what we used to call in the Stone Ages journalism, and content is the stuff you create. So articles, videos, social posts, all of that stuff. Pace is an interesting company, and it's based right here in Greensboro. Is it still weird? It's fine. Okay. Hello. So we're going to talk about, like I said, content. How do you get started in it? How you find yourself in it, how I found myself in it, and what we do for some of the brands that we work for. So content marketing, why should you care? You should care because you are in this school, and this is obviously what you want to do. And when you leave this school and you go out and you try to get a job, somebody somewhere is going to say, do you know how to create content? So you need to know what you're talking about, you need to know how to do that, and you probably are doing that. I'm going to start with a bit of a definition about content marketing. This is what we call it. There's a lot of words here. I won't read them word for word to you guys, but content marketing is a thing. It's an actual discipline. You're probably learning a lot about it. You're probably learning about something called content strategy too. So you kind of need to know what you're talking about when you're out there. Basically, content marketing is taking all the stuff that we create for our brands and making sure that it gets to the right audiences and that they do something once they consume it. So the mechanics, content strategy. We at Pace say that we can't do content marketing without content strategy. Content strategy is an interesting thing, and this is where I'll give you a little bit of my background. So like you said, I am a journalist. I started out traditional publishing at Entertainment Weekly magazine, covering, oh God, I'm not even going to tell you the stars because it's just going to date me like crazy, but literally going to concerts, movies, all that kind of stuff, and writing about those people. That was content back in the day. Then something happened that was amazing. It's called the internet and technology, and all the places where you can consume that content, no longer just magazines, no longer just newspapers. So journalists like us had to get that content to those devices and to those places. So doing that sort of in the beginning was like the wild, wild west. We just kind of put it where our bosses told us to put it. But now there is an actual discipline called content strategy out there. It's an actual industry. You guys are learning some of the principles of that. You're learning some of the tools and techniques to know how to do that. And we at Pace say that we can't do content marketing, which is talking to audiences on behalf of brands, without content strategy. So to us, it's the mechanics of building a publishing capability, right? So there are things that you have to do. You need editorial calendars, you need guidelines, you need process, you need workflow. You need to know how to hire the right people. Who are those people? Are they writers? Are they videographers? The answer is yes. They're all of those people, and I imagine there's a lot of you in here who do that kind of stuff. And then coordinating all of that stuff so that it gets to the right channels at the right time. So how do I get the content to your mobile device? How do I get it to your social channels? How do I get it to your video channels? How do I get it into your annual reports? We do some of that for our companies as well. Getting it there. And then in the old days, it was sort of like, this is what I kind of miss about magazine publishing a little bit. We'd write an article, we put it out there in the magazine, and we assumed people read we do something like a leadership survey, and we bring people in, maybe do some focus groups, and we give them lots of candy so they'd say nice things about the magazine, right? And that's kind of how we measured the success of our magazine. Well, this group of people said they read 3/4 of the article. That's a success. Now we know, and you guys know this, we know this up to the minute whether somebody is using your stuff. They like it, great. They're not only consuming it, but they literally like it, and they literally share it. And that's how we measure the success. And David talked a lot about people doing that. If they don't do that, if you created content, you put it out on those channels, and no one has done those things, the content's not a success. And we know that instantly. So then we do something, if that happens in the rare instances when that happens to us, not often, we do something called optimizing that content. We look at that content and say, where did we go wrong and how can we fix it? We fix it almost instantly. We put it back out there so that we can see if we can get a different message out there and we can get a better response. And then all of that put together is content strategy. And for us, we call that a plan. It's not a roadmap. It's not like, oh, I want to knock this content strategy out so that I can get my work done. This is the actual plan of how we create content for brands. We use content strategy for content marketing. So without the two, there is no work for us. So Pace, like I said, is in Greensboro. This is putting it all together, kind of what I just went through. But Pace is in Greensboro, and we have a pretty good roster of clients. So probably a little bit more than a dozen and a half really large clients. They include Walmart, Wells Fargo, Four Seasons Resorts and Hotels, Trulia, USAA. We have a pretty good hold in a financial vertical with those clients. And they're large, right? So I'm glad that you gave the perspective of small and growing big. Pace has huge clients. I mean, as you guys know, it literally doesn't get any bigger than Walmart. And what we like to do is we specialize in one thing, creating quality content. And what we find when we go in, no matter who our main client is, often we'll go into a business and they're so massive, we'll have one client over here and they never will talk to the clients over here. So at Wells Fargo, for example, there are 80 lines of business in Wells Fargo across the country. That means there's the folks who deal with car loans, there's the folks who deal with home mortgages, there's the folks who deal with the actual retail banks. Some of those folks are our clients, most of those 80 are not. But what we like to do, we go in and we'll create content for one, and we sort of make a name for ourselves. In a way, it's like being entrepreneurial and being a small business all the time. So we'll go in, and then the good word kind of gets out about us, and then the others will say, oh, we like what you guys did for our colleagues over here in St. Louis. Can you do that sort of thing for us here in California? So that's how Pace sort of likes to grow our business. We're a company of about 330. We are a woman-owned business. Our founder and CEO is a woman named Bonnie McElveen Hunter, and she literally started the company 40 years ago with a little bit of cash in her pocket and her stuff packed into a Pinto. She drove to Greensboro to take a job in sales, magazine sales. She started selling advertising for an in-flight magazine. There used to be an airline in this area, you guys may know this, called Piedmont, and Bonnie came to work for them as a salesperson, selling ads in that magazine that went in the back of the seat pocket. She rose up the ranks, she did really well, she became the publisher of that magazine, and then before you knew it, she had enough money to actually purchase that magazine. That magazine was called Pace. Eventually, she turned that one in-flight magazine into business for several in-flight magazines. At the height of that sort of era, she had about, I think, up to maybe 8 in-flight magazines for national airlines across the country. We now have, we retain some of that business still. Now that we're a digital agency, we do the in-flight magazine for Southwest. So if you guys have ever taken Southwest and you've seen Spirit Magazine, have you guys ever seen that? Spirit Magazine? That is a Pace publication. One, in fact, that we're really, really proud of. And that really is a program that's still in our roots of print magazine publishing. So as the years went by, print magazines sort of, it's a very expensive prospect for brands and companies to be able to do that. So they started doing that less and less, and they would come to us and say, well, can you do our website? Can you help us do a Facebook page? And we said, yes. And of course, to your point, we did not know how to do that, but we learned how to do that. And now we have our business stretches all across print, digital, social, mobile, and video for some of those brands. So everything is amazing, but nobody's happy. Do you guys recognize where that quote's from? Louis C.K., the comedian? The point he was making here is that we have access to so much. We're so spoiled. If you look up this rant on YouTube, I think he was being interviewed by Conan. It's so great. He was saying how we get on board our flights and we log onto Wi-Fi or whatever. And he said the guy next to him on the plane was complaining because the internet went down. And he's like, oh, it sucks. Internet went down on my plane. He's like, dude, you are flying in a chair. We've gotten so spoiled by our technology and the information we have at our fingertips that our tolerance for mistakes and what we don't want, what we don't get when we want it, is just unbelievable. And this is kind of what our jobs are all the time. These brands come to us, and the cool thing is they come to us and they say, we have an audience and we want to talk to them. We were having a great conversation this morning about working with brands that you want to work with. Like you said, a brand you believe in. And so this is an interesting prospect for a brand, right? I'm totally going off script, so I'll look at that in a second. But I want to make sure I say this point. This is an interesting prospect for brands, especially for you guys in this audience, the millennial audience. They want nothing more than to get next to you. Because you guys are interesting as a generation. What you've said to the brands that we know, the brands that we work with, Walmart, Wells Fargo, all of them, Coca-Cola, any brand in the world right now wants to talk to you for one main important reason. Do you guys know what that reason is? What is it? Buying power. You guys are going to outnumber the boomers. You've heard it over and over. They want to get next to you now. But what's great about you guys is that you've made it known loud and clear that you want no parts of these brands. You said it to me this morning at breakfast, unless I know what you stand for. You can't tell me what you stand for, then I'm not giving you any of my time, and worse, I'm not giving you any of my money. And the thing about you guys is the way you said that, oh, that's much better. The way you said that is that you have to come to me. You have to bring your information, tell me what you stand for in seconds. And if you can't tell me in seconds, then I'm going to be on to the next thing. So where am I? You guys are on all your social channels, so they know they have to get everything about them, what they stand for, what they say, and what they want you to know about them in seconds on your channels and on your terms, right? So that's kind of where Pace comes in. That's where you guys come in as well. How can we get that messaging to them in seconds where they are? Through content is what Pace says. So this slide, back to everything is amazing and nobody's happy. We like it because it's not just about the technology, but it's also about our professional lives. I mean, it's a really important point for you guys. You're trying to figure out, where can I go after I leave here? What kind of job can I get? You want to do something that you love. And I know it sounds trite. I know it sounds like something you've probably heard a million times. But honestly, guys, you guys are just going to spend hours on your jobs. Hours. More time on your jobs with your coworkers than you're going to spend with your friends. More time on your jobs with your coworkers than you're going to spend with your families. So it really does have to be something you enjoy. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable. And until you find that thing, and it may be something in this field, it may be something like what I do, or what these guys do, or it may not. One of the most important things is the good old internship. Figure out if you like it before you get out of school. I did it. It was an advertising internship. Sorry. Hated it. I couldn't stand it. I'm a creative person. And then I ended up back in marketing anyway, so go figure. But at the time, I didn't like it, and I went straight to traditional journalism. So that's kind of what we're saying in that first part. Everything is amazing and nobody's happy. It reflects not just our feelings in social, but in our professional lives as well. And as marketers, we chase this kind of endless array of capabilities. Oh, the client wants us to be on Instagram. Oh, the client wants us to be on Vine. But it's all about learning that new technology and figuring out how to use it. And sometimes when we get there, it's great, but the technology and the ability to get there doesn't really materialize. It's like the guy in the chair in the airplane. I'm on a plane, I'm on Wi-Fi, and most of the time, what are we doing on the plane on Wi-Fi? Going on Facebook, our social networks. It's not like we're during world hunger while we're flying to Cincinnati, but we want that capability, and however, in some ways, it's just not really being realized. That, to us, is because there's content, but there's no context for it. So we're losing control of the context of engagement. So it's not enough, in other words, for a brand to say, I've reached you on your social channel of choice, but what am I saying to you? And more importantly, what am I getting you to do after that? So the context of consumer engagement has shifted. The media industry has provided new tools and platforms and all of this stuff, but the epicenters haven't changed. And that, to me, pace of the consumer wanting that stuff is outpacing the way brands work. And that's what I mean. These really large companies, getting them to change and adapt to some of this stuff is like turning the Titanic. I'll give you an example. Our Wells Fargo client, they very much want to reach your audience because you guys are turning banking on its head. You're going to organizations like Mint and giving these places your money and your budgeting and all that kind of stuff, women especially, and they don't know what to do with that information. So traditionally what they've done is they've created a lot of white papers. White papers are like, and from banks, they're like as thick as this book, right? So they'll create a white paper and they'll say, well, we have everything you need to know about retail banking in this white paper. Just put it in a PDF and put it online. You guys run away from that stuff like the plague. And we've been trying to get them to understand that, I kid you not, for about 12 months or more. It's just like turning the Titanic. They don't understand it. They don't know how to do it. I always say this, we say this at the office, a lot of what we do is like therapy. The people are like, if I do that, if I put it on social, then what will my job be? We literally have to do this kind of thing. It's like change management, they call it. You're getting people to understand that they not only have to talk in a different way, but they have to create the content in a different way. Consumers are moving really rapidly. We talked about that. You guys are all over the place. To us, it's about this right here. Content equals engagement. Engagement equals relevancy. And the point of this is, if you interact with a brand and you say you like the brand, how many of you guys have a favorite clothing brand? What are some of them? Name one of your favorite clothing brands. What is it? Zara. Anybody else? No other favorite clothing? The Gap? No. Anthropology? All of them. Where do you interact with them? Do you go online? Instagram. Is that your channel of choice in general? Instagram? For clothes and fashion? Where do you guys interact with some of your other favorite brands? Anybody use Twitter? Sometimes. Facebook? How do you receive your offers? From them. Email. So the point of this is, they know that they can't get you to buy unless they are greeting you and engaging you beforehand. Because the competition is fierce, and not just with other clothing retailers, but with everybody. Every brand out there is trying to get your attention. So they not only need to interact with you where you are, but they have to make that content they put in front of you relevant. It's not just enough to say, here's an offer. We have to say, okay, once you do this, here's some lifestyle information for you. Here's where you might go if you're wearing that. Here's something you might pair that with. Or we have a lot of CPG or consumer packaged goods clients, and their sort of method of reaching customers is coupons, right? A lot of coupons, a lot of offers. Our technology client, Verizon, is like this as well. So when we started working with them, all they did was offers. You can get this phone for free. You can get this phone now for $99. They did very little other than that on Twitter, and certainly nothing less than that on Facebook. And what we said to them is, it's not enough to just sell to people all the time. You have to give them information that they can use that's relevant at the time that they need it. One of the examples that we use with Verizon to help them understand that is parents buying phones for their kids. So when should I buy it? What kind should I buy? How much should I spend? Do I need that insurance? And how do I monitor what they do on that phone? This is information that parents were dying for. And Verizon said, well, why should we give them that information? Really, all we want to do is get them to buy the phone, buy a data plan. But what we found is when we started giving them that kind of information, videos, articles, even social posts about when to buy a phone for your child. Is 10 too soon? Is 11 too soon? Is 9-year-old? Is that too soon? And connecting them to other parents who had the same questions. Suddenly, it wasn't just content, but it was content that was relevant. Now, our Verizon friends had no idea how to create this kind of content. They had no idea how to do this. They didn't hire journalists, but they had an agency that created content. When we started, we were doing brochures for them that you would find in the Verizon store. And we turned those print brochures into digital content. But that's what we mean about relevancy. So we slowly started proving to them that we can create content that's not only engaging, but relevant to your consumers at the time. And now we have a business with Verizon. We are on their main e-commerce site. It's called the Insider's Guide. I'm going to show you that in a little while. And the content that we create for them there really is fantastic. People use it more than anything else. We found that the content works. People who interact with that content have a larger sort of basket or cart when they check out on Verizon. So relevancy is the most valuable courtesy to buy time with the customers and to own the context of your brand in a consumer-driven era. And what that means is only a brand can tell you what they stand for, but you guys can take that message and share it with your social networks. Yeah, same thing. So content for us is fuel. So what I do at Pace is I'm the sort of head of content strategy. So I basically lead the editorial teams, and we hire journalists. Many of them are actually from this school, and they stand up what we call mini magazines. So the Verizon team has a journalism group. The Four Seasons team, they have a journalism group. We also have a strategy group that partners with those folks, and they create all of this content all across the board. For us, content not only is it the fuel, but it's kind of the glue that sticks these giant divisions and these companies together. So content gets you to where your customers are. We talked about that, whether it's your social channels or print magazines. Some people prefer that, or email newsletters. It allows you to show and demonstrate affection for your customers and to demonstrate emotion across the brand. Engagement that resonates and performs is always about creating a path that's relevant across all the touch points. So what that means for us, and I never thought I'd get into this stuff as a journalist, but customers go on a journey, right? Sometimes, and I don't know if they still say this, but you guys might know, that it takes a customer sometimes 6 to 9 times before they actually decide to buy something. So they may get an email newsletter and decide, oh, that's a great sale. I think I might go to that store, but they put it away and they don't actually act. And then later on, you know how you look at one thing if you're shopping, but you don't buy, then you go online later because the cookies, that thing that you were looking at, follows you around the internet. That's because they know that you're looking at it and they want to get you to buy. So whatever future touch points you may have, we need to put some content there as well. It's not just about selling the product. So if that thing is a phone, why should I buy this phone now? It's expensive. Should I buy it later? You might see an article that says that's a comparison between this phone and that phone. You might see an article that says, if you love taking pictures on your phone, here are some other things that you can do. You might see an article that says, if you like taking video on your phone, here's this guy that created this great movie that won all these awards and he used his phone. So that's the kind of lifestyle content that we like to provide to our clients so that when you're on your customer journey before you buy, you can receive content all along until you make your decision. I just like that picture. Content is strategic. So for us, it's interesting because once clients sort of got the message about content needing to be more than just a sale, then they sort of went off the rails, right? And they were creating all kinds of content that actually had nothing to do with their products. So we kind of had to reel them back in, right? And the thing is, with us as an agency that gets paid for this stuff, kind of the best and the worst thing to happen to an agency like us is the measurement piece. Do you guys know Google Analytics and Omniture? So with those tools, you can measure how effective your content is, right? So now our clients are holding us accountable, and we have an actual way of telling them whether or not the content has performed. Has it done what you said it was going to do, Pace? Yes, it has, or no, it hasn't. And if it hasn't, then it's why not. And if it continues to be no, it hasn't performed, then that's the end of our relationship. But the point of that is this. We create content. The pressure is on us now to make it a couple of things. One, it has to be relevant. We talked about that before. It has to be engaging, exciting, or funny, or interesting. And then it has to work. And so what we do is we make sure that it's super targeted. We have a bunch of people in our office in our digital strategy group who know the social channels inside and out. For example, they'll know Instagram inside and out. They know what brands like there, what brands do. They know each competitive set for each of our clients, so they know what Verizon's competitors are, what they're doing on Instagram. They know what Four Seasons competitors are doing on Instagram, and they can tell us when we come up with an idea. Ideas are great, but if nobody likes them and nobody shares and nobody consumes the content, what's the point? So these guys make sure that we're creating ideas for all of these channels that are not only cool, but that they work. So we created something at Pace called the AGILE content engine, and this might be relevant to you guys. I like this part because this is where you can sort of see what some of the jobs might be out there in the industry, not just at Pace, but at a lot of different agencies. And there's a lot of overlap between ad agencies, content agencies, PR, even. Everybody's creating content out there for their clients. Everybody has a little piece of their clients' social channels. So I like this one because it sort of gets into what some of the jobs might be. We created something called the AGILE content engine, and what that means is Sort of gone are the days of staffing a media enterprise around one thing. Back in the day, we used to sort of staff for a newspaper, or we'd staff for a magazine, and there'd be entry-level editors, editorial assistants, there'd be the middle-level people, associates, and that sort of thing, senior level, and then up to the top. And everybody had one job to create for this one channel. With the proliferation of channels across the board, you need to have a lot of those mini sort of structures, but then you need to have people who look at all of this and make sure you're doing the right thing, that it's strategic, you're doing it at the right time, and that you're measuring it at the end. And we found that these really large organizations needed that even more because they need a lot of content. So at Pace, the Agile Content Engine, we have at the top sits an editorial director and a content strategist. Those two people work together. This person comes up with the ideas. This is what we're going to talk about, write about, shoot video about. And this person says, this is where we're going to put that. It needs to be this type of content. It needs to be video. It needs to go on YouTube. It needs to do 15-second links. It needs to go on Instagram. And then, so that's sort of traditional. And then each person is responsible for a channel. So you could have someone in charge of email newsletters. You could have someone in charge of social. You could have someone in charge of video. And then we publish it at different times. So this is the stuff we publish every day, the stuff we publish weekly, the stuff we publish quarterly or yearly. And all of that is a different job. It's a much larger sort of organization depending on the size of your agency. And this gets into a little quick, real quick. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you the Verizon video. This is an example of some of the stuff that we do for our clients. Verizon, as we said, our largest client, we hire about 60 to 65 full-time folks for Verizon. We put our content on their e-commerce channels. So when you go to Verizon.com, VerizonWireless.com to buy, you'll find our content there. And this is an example of how we integrate content into their e-commerce channel. So this is the entire page. We interviewed this guy named Nikki Freedom in Greensboro, who's a dancer and exercise instructor who actually broke his neck performing. And we did a whole series on how he uses technology and video in his work. This story actually lives on Verizon's e-commerce channel. And we integrate the product here. All of this stuff is content that will be written by Pace. And this is Nikki on his way back to...
I'm about to attend a gainer. It's my first time doing it since my surgery. I'm here alone. Sent a few text messages out to my friends, let them know to come find me if they don't hear back